Hello from my house. I am not working on Monday, which will be the day that this posts, because my kids and I have dentist appointments, and so I am recording the hip kind of lunch and learn on Sunday evening. So I'm going to go over hips and just kind of the key role that they play in your pelvic floor health and pelvic floor function. So the picture that I had posted on Sunday, the first little bullet point said your hips are actually part of an attachment site for your pelvic floor. So your pelvic floor attaches from pubic bone to tailbone and then bottom part of the spine, kind of forming a hammock this way if we have front to back. And then it also attaches sit bone to sit bone, but then it also attaches onto some deep hip rotator muscles. So the tension in your pelvic floor and the flexibility you have in your hips play an integral role because they influence each other so much. So the analogy that I use a lot is that the pelvic floor is like a trampoline. Okay, so if we have the round, rigid structure of the trampoline, that would be like the frame. In a person, that would be the bony portion of the pelvis. In this analogy, the pelvic floor is the mesh of the trampoline, and the hip muscles are the springs in that trampoline, okay? So visualize that trampoline, and normally somebody, when they're jumping on it, that trampoline has to be able to come down and then kind of rebound and support them back up. So with this particular analogy, the person jumping on the trampoline would be like your pelvic organs, okay? So your pelvic floor, aka the trampoline, has to be able to kind of absorb that shock of the pelvic organs and then be able to support them and kind of rebound them back up during everyday activities. And so the tension that is in the springs of a trampoline will directly influence how functional that trampoline is. Okay, so think about if that trampoline has really stretched out and weak springs, it's going to sit really low. And so that kind of leads to my third point, where hip stability is actually key for pelvic organ support. So oftentimes we think prolapse, we think, well, your pelvic floor is just weak. Well, maybe, but honestly, it's a lot of times the symptoms are coming from kind of another issue further up the chain. And a lot of times the hips can be a nice key role, because if we can kind of strengthen that spring back up, that's going to provide better support for that pelvic floor to kind of anchor onto. And then the very last point that's on there talks about muscle tension in the pelvic floor and in the hips having a big influence on your nerve health. So I am at home, so I don't have my pelvic floor model, but I did kind of pull up a nice picture. And so I'm going to use my camera and just kind of flip it around and then kind of point to some stuff. So the picture's real busy, so don't pay attention to the words. I will show you the part that's important, okay? So there we go. Okay, so you see all this yellow stuff here? That is actually the beginning parts of your sciatic nerve. It starts here, kind of up in the lumbar plexus, and then parts of the sacral plexus as well, and they come together, and you can see right here would be where they form the sciatic nerve, and they go out of the pelvis and down your leg. Well, this is your pelvic floor. This is that hip rotator that it attaches to. See, pelvic floor attaches onto that hip muscle. And then right here is your piriformis as well. So you can see where if there's just not a lot of breathing room for the nerves, because any of these muscles are too tight, it's going to create issues even down into the leg. So a lot of times when I have patients coming in for pelvic floor issues, frequently we've got some hip pain, some back pain, and even some sciatica. And it's just because so many things influence one another that it's almost impossible to have just kind of one thing affected and then that's it. So hopefully that was helpful, and fingers crossed that the video loads tomorrow. My internet's not great, country life, but I'm just a firm believer in the hips playing such a key role in pelvic health, and now I hope you understand why too. All right, have a great day, and a good week. And I will see you next week. I forgot to write down on a sticky note what it's for, so it'll be a surprise for all of us. All right.